Environment is made up of four main components, that is the atmosphere, the hydrosphere, the lithosphere and the biosphere. Atmosphere actually protects the earth from the hostile environment of the outer space. So the biosphere includes all the living organisms on the earth together or along with the dead organic matter that is produced by them. Hello everyone, a warm welcome to today's session on Unit 1 of Environmental Studies for 2nd Sem BCom, wherein we'll study about the first chapter under Unit 1, that is Introduction to Environmental. I'm Dr. Divya, Environmental Studies Faculty, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, Temple of Excellence, Mysuru. So we all know that environment is one of the important concepts in each and every organisms that live on this planet, right? Why? Because we are not apart from the environment. We are a part of the environment wherein we need to blend with it. We need to take something from the environment and in return we need to give back to the environment if we need to live a peace and harmful life without any problems and with good health. So today's session, let us start with the introduction wherein we'll understand what is the word environment. So the word environment is derived from a French word. So it is taken from the French language wherein environner, which means to surround. So environner meaning surrounding. So whatever is there in your surrounding will form your environment. It is not that just the trees that are there forms the environment. You are in an industrial area, you are surrounded by industry. So that will be the environment. It's an industrial environment, it's an agricultural environment, it is a forest environment, it is a desert environment. So whatever surrounds you, that will be your environment, and that is the one which will have a great influence on your life. So here the term environment in terms of ecology was introduced by one scientist named Jacob van Urekel. He was from 1864 to 1944. So during that time he was the first person to have introduced the term environment in the ecology, in the textbooks of ecology, or while describing about ecology, environment term was introduced by Jacob van Urekel. So this is about environment, wherein we learnt about the word environment, from where it was designed, from where it was actually picked up or derived, and who was the scientist in introducing the word environment to ecology. So next let's learn about the definition of environment. So environment is defined as the sum total of, it is a sum total of water, air and land and the interrelationship that exists among them and with that of the human beings and other organisms and matter that is there in this planet. So environment means it is a combination of water, air and land as well. And with this combination, there is a lot of living organisms and organic and inorganic matter present in the environment. So that interaction of the human beings with other living organisms as well as the organic and inorganic matter that is present constitutes the environment. So this is the definition of environment, which is the sum total of water, air and land and the interrelationship that exists between the human beings with that of other living organisms and also with that of the organic and inorganic matter that is present. So next let us study about environmental studies. So what is environmental studies? Why actually it is important? And environmental studies has a lot of multidisciplinary fields that are involved in it. What are those? Let's look into. So environmental studies is a multidisciplinary academic field which systematically studies human interaction with the environment. Because when we learned the definition of environment, we had learned that environment is nothing but a combination of air, land and water, and also environment deals with the interaction between the human beings and all the other things that are there in the planet, right? So here therefore, in order to study the interaction between the human beings and all the other things or living organisms that are there in the planet, we need a particular subject. And that subject is nothing but environmental studies, which is a multidisciplinary academic field. Why? Because under environmental studies, we can learn various fields. We can learn about biodiversity, we can learn about ecology, and how to conserve the nature, how to prevent different forms of pollution, what are the different forms of pollution, like this various fields are involved or various streams are having environmental studies. And environmental studies not just is an academic field, but it's not just meant for the exams. It is also something which inculcates in each and every human being the habit of preserving or conserving nature. So this is about environmental studies. So next, moving on to, I had told you that environmental studies is a multidisciplinary field. So let's learn what is the multidisciplinary nature of environmental studies. So the environmental studies is a multidisciplinary science because it is made up of various branches. So under environmental studies, various branches of studies are involved, wherein we learn chemistry, we learn physics, we learn medical science, we learn life science, and we learn about agriculture, we learn about public health, sanitary engineering, etc. So when we say environmental studies, it is not just limited to the trees and the animals or the birds that you see around, but apart from that, a lot of other subjects are also involved in this, like chemistry. So chemistry, when you study environmental studies, you study about water, right? You study about air and you study about land. What is all that? Chemistry is involved in water, wherein you need to know what are the compounds present in water. You need to know what are the different gaseous substances present in the atmosphere, or what are the minerals that the land is made up of, right? So to know all this, you need chemistry. So therefore, chemistry is also involved in environmental studies. Likewise, physics. Physics, when I say, the best example I can give you, you learn in environmental studies about birds. You learn about insects, right? When you learn about birds and insects, you know that birds and insects, they fly by flapping their wings. And that flapping of the wings is nothing but it has a particular motion or a movement wherein physics is involved. Or the bat, how they travel at night. Bats usually, they are nocturnal, right? They move around during the night time and they are very less inactive during the daytime. Why is it? Because bats cannot see. So that is why they only hear the vibrations and they move around in search of food. That echo or vibrations move towards the bat, and how the bat perceives those vibrations, all that is nothing but physics. It is related to physics. So that is why physics is also involved in environmental studies. And not just that, talking about the energy flow. So we have food chain. So when I say about a simple food chain, say for example, we have plants. The plants will be eaten by the herbivores. So when the plants are eaten by the herbivores, so what are herbivores? Herbivores are nothing but those animals which feed on plants. They are completely vegetarian. They are the herbivores, right? When the plants are eaten by the herbivores, some energy from the plants will move to the herbivores. And these herbivores will be eaten by the carnivores, which are the meat-eating animals, right? Some amount of energy from the herbivores will move to the carnivores. There also, when the energy is moving in each of these levels, that is from one level of the food chain to the other, some amount of energy is lost. Here also the law of physics is applied. There are few laws of physics wherein law of thermodynamics and all that is there, that is applied there. So that is why environmental studies and physics also is a combined subject wherein you need to learn both. And next, talking about medical science. So in environment, we have a lot of plant species, right? Different plant species, and each of these plant species has their own medical value. Means they are used in the preparation of lot of medicines here. So these medicines, do you think allopathy medicine came up just like that? No, the base for allopathy medicine was Ayurveda. Ayurveda, from where does it come? Again from plants. They are the medicines that are prepared which are derived from plants itself, right? So medical science were in Ayurveda. So can we only depend on Ayurveda? At one point of time all these plants might become perished. So that is when you keeping the chemicals that are there in the plants as a base, synthetic chemicals or artificial chemicals are prepared in the laboratory, and that is nothing but allopathy medicine that you get. So therefore environment and medical science are also interrelated to one another. And life science, when we take up life science as a subject, there in depth we study about environmental studies, because most of the topics related to environmental studies will be in the life science subject. Next, agriculture. Again, in environmental studies we learn about agriculture, we learn about crop breeding technique, we learn about again, to study about agriculture we need to know about the land, we need to know about the insects and the pests which are a part of environment, how they damage the crops and all that. So therefore in the field of agriculture also environmental studies plays a very important role. Next, in public health, to know about public health, because public health gets deteriorated because of various pollutions, because of the pollution of the water, right, and pollution of the air, all that causes a lot of ill effects or hazards on the public health. So knowing about these pollutions is very, very important, and that idea you get only if you study environmental studies. Next, for sanitary engineering also. Why? If you need to know, sanitary engineering is an engineering subject. Now you might think, how does environmental studies fit into that? Okay, if you need to do sanitary engineering, first you need to know about the particular area. What type of soil it is made up of, what type of condition that area is, what type of environment that area is, so that you can create proper sanitary measures, create proper drains, create proper different sanitary measures, and all that can be taken under sanitary engineering. So for that also environmental studies knowledge is needed. So that is why environmental studies is a multidisciplinary field wherein in lot of subjects learn about environmental studies. And that is why, in spite of students taking up subjects such as commerce or BCA, that is computer related or related to accounts or whatever, environmental studies should always be a part of your life, and that is why they have introduced this particular subject in your syllabus, because it is very important for each and every person to have at least a little bit knowledge about environmental studies. So environmental studies is the science of physical phenomenon in the environment. Because of this also it is a multidisciplinary field. So under environmental studies we also study about the sources, the reactions, the transport, the effect and the fate of physical and biological species that are residing or living in the air, water and soil, and what effects the human activities has on these species, that also we shall study. So that is why environmental studies is a multidisciplinary field, because it studies about the sources from where a particular organism has come, what is its particular habitat, what happens if humans interfere in that particular habitat, if we destroy that habitat, will that species survive, is that species capable of adopting, those species of animals and plants that are there in the land, that are there in the water, and those species of organisms that are there in the air. So what harm are we human beings causing to them? So therefore environmental studies about the sources, the reactions, the transport, the effect and fate of the physical environment of different species. So that is why it is a multidisciplinary field. And also, as the environment is complex and it is actually made up of many different environments, like environment can be natural. Natural means the forest, they are natural, and forests can be man-made also. Forests are natural, the aquatic environment is natural, some of the terrestrial environments such as the forests are natural, air is natural. But apart from having a natural environment, environment can also be constructed and cultural environments. So constructed environments, if we say for example, you can create an environment inside an office, right? You can create an environment inside an office. You can create an environment artificial in the form of parks, in the form of recreational centers, etc. So those are constructed environments. Or there are cultural environments. The best example that we can take of is for the cultural environment is a sacred groves. So sacred groves are nothing but they are small patches of lands which are filled with trees and they are worshipped by the people. Why they are worshipped is because, so at least in that way, a part of the environment can be preserved. So therefore, cultural environment. Here, environmental studies is interdisciplinary in nature, including the study of biology, geology, politics, policy studies, law, religion, engineering, chemistry and economics to understand the humanities' effects on the natural world. So, for all these environmental studies are very, very important. Say for example, environmental studies is under biology. You need to know it's not just enough if you study the parts of a plant to study about DNA, to study about genes, all that is not enough here. You need to study the environment. So, if there is a problem in the environment, how will it affect that particular species of organism? So, if you know that, then you can later on you can try to find solutions for that. So that is why environmental study includes the study of biology, it includes the study of geology wherein you study about the earth, you study about the earth's crust, what is the minerals present in the earth's crust, all that you study, and you study about politics. Politics also is involved. What are the different laws or amendments that have been passed, and what are the different rules and regulations that have been passed towards the environment. Or under politics, sometimes what they do, they keep all the rules and regulations apart, and then in spite of that, they take up some projects which are harmful to the environment. So that is why learning politics is also very, very important, and policy studies and what are the different laws that have been put forward in order to safeguard the environment. Say for example, we have various wildlife laws that have been put forward in order to prevent poaching or hunting of animals, in order to prevent unnecessary cutting of trees and all that. So there also we learn about laws under environmental studies. We learn about religion. So all this you have in your coming about religion and all, how religions are involved in environmental studies, or what is their contribution towards environment. In the coming units you have about all these wherein you'll study about this. So religion, how they are involved is in each of the holy book, be it the Quran, the Bible, or be it the books of the Sikhs, or books of the Jains, holy books, and be it the Hindus, Bhagavad Gita, everywhere there are some phrases wherein importance has been given to environment, and there are phrases which states how a human being should treat a environment. So all that we learn under religion. Then engineering also, since early times itself, under engineering there is a subject related to environmental science, or environmental science engineering is a separate field. How it is useful? Say for example, you are an engineering student. After you graduate, you are put into a field of construction wherein you will have a project of constructing a building. So when you need to construct that particular building, you just can't go to a random place saying that that area is free, we can construct a building there. If you need to construct a 2-story building, what should be the condition of the soil? A 3-story, what should be the condition? And as you increase the height of the building, what should be the condition of the soil? If you construct a building there, what all will it affect the surrounding environment? All that you need to know. You need to know the texture of the soil. You need to know the holding capacity of the soil. So, whether soil erosion is occurring there, if it is occurring, how you can prevent it, all that you need to know. So, that is why environmental studies is also a part of engineering here. Next, chemistry, already I have told you how it is involved, and economics also. Economics is involved. You need to be a bit money minded when it comes to environment. So, say for example, you have polluted the environment to such an extent wherein availability of water has drastically come down. Can you pay thousands of rupees for drinking water? Think of it. So, thinking of economy or money is also important there. So, imagine if you safeguard water, if you do not pollute water and you use water only when needed in the minimal extent, then throughout all the generations that are there, they can get enough amount of water needed for them. Otherwise, what might happen? If you keep polluting water, one fine day, and if you keep cutting trees, one fine day, the earth will become a hot planet wherein the availability of water will completely come down, and who knows, maybe you will have to pay for water. We all know that people living in cities, it is very difficult, right? We pay for water sometimes, but at least the amount that we pay now is quite minimal. But hope that day does not come wherein we'll have to pay thousands to thousands of rupees for just a drinking water. So that is why understanding the economics is also very, very important here. And all these are needed to understand the humanity's effects on the natural world. So before cutting a tree, if you know the law, whatever law has been put forward, you will not unnecessarily cut trees. So that is why learning each of these is very, very important under environmental studies, or under each of these subjects also environmental studies is there. So that is why environmental studies is multidisciplinary in nature. And this subject, that is environmental studies, it educates to appreciate the complexity of the environmental issues and citizens and experts in many fields. Not just that, in environmental studies, it tries to educate people about the complexity of the environment, and it tries to educate people what are the different environmental issues are there, how you can curb these environmental issues, how you can participate in bringing down these environmental issues. Say for example, a metro rail is being constructed in Bangalore. So when they are constructing a metro rail, how many trees should be cut, right? So will it not pose a threat to the environment? Of course it will be. It will pose. So there are many organizations wherein people get involved and they try to protest. They say that, okay, if you cut trees also, please plant a tree for the tree that you have cut. So that is how we can curb environmental issues, and all those ideas come only if you are educated, only if you have some knowledge about environmental studies. And also a lot of how to curb pollution, all that can be learned through environmental studies. And by studying environmental science, students may develop a breadth of interdisciplinary and methodological knowledge in the field of environment that enables them to facilitate the definition and solution of environmental problems. Only if you know about environmental science, only if you know that the environment consists of air, water and soil, and how these are important to human beings, and what might happen if these are not there for the human beings in the future, then only you will understand how you need to protect the environment, how much need is it to protect the environment, and what measures can be taken, all that you will understand. So therefore, that is why environmental studies has been included in every subject, despite a student being BCom, BBA or a BCA. Of course, it is there for a BSc student also, but a BSc student would have studied it in his earlier classes as well. But the chances for other students are very, very less. So that is why this subject has been introduced for your degree. So this is about the multidisciplinary nature of environmental studies. So next, let's study about the components of the environment. So the environment is made up of four main components, that is the atmosphere, the hydrosphere, the lithosphere and the biosphere. So let's study about each of these one by one. Talking about atmosphere. So an atmosphere is a layer of gases, that is, it is about 100 kilometer thick. So it surrounds the earth. So surrounding the earth around 100 kilometer thick, we have a layer which is made up of gases, and that particular layer is called as the atmosphere. And this covering of atmosphere is very, very important for the earth, for the survival of all the living organisms on the earth. So that is why atmosphere is very, very important, because the oxygen that we get from where? Of course, we get it from the plants. But if plants has to release oxygen, plants need carbon dioxide. From where will they get it? They get it from the atmosphere. So that is how each of these organisms are interdependent on one another and with that of the atmosphere. So in the atmosphere, there are two important layers, that is called as the troposphere and the stratosphere. These two layers together, they are called as the atmosphere, and together they are about 100 kilometers thick. And the lowest layer, which is called as the troposphere, is the only warm part of the atmosphere wherein we can survive, and it is only 12 kilometers thick. So there are two layers. The atmosphere is made up of two layers. One is the troposphere and the stratosphere. In this troposphere and the stratosphere, organisms can survive only in the troposphere. We are living in the troposphere area. So troposphere area, only there the organism can survive. Why the organisms can survive only in that particular layer is because that layer is almost warm enough for any organism to survive, and it occupies only 12 kilometers thick. So 100 kilometer thick is the atmosphere, out of which it is made up of troposphere and stratosphere together forms the atmosphere, and in that troposphere is only about 12 kilometers thick, and it is that 12 kilometers thick troposphere which is the survival area for all the organism. And the stratosphere is about 50 kilometers thick, and it contains a layer of sulfates, and this sulfate is very, very important. Why? Because this sulfate is the one that helps in the formation of rain. You all have heard about rain seeding, right? During the summers, extreme summers, when we don't get rain at the proper time and the summer extends, at that time the government usually goes for cloud seeding. So cloud seeding, they use this particular chemical called sulfate itself. So in our atmosphere, that is in the stratosphere layer of the atmosphere, which is about 50 kilometers thick, there sulfates are present, and these sulfates are very, very important for the pouring of rain or the formation of rain. It is very, very important. And formation of rain, again, it is important for the earth because it keeps the earth's temperature cool, and it also provides water for all the living organisms that are there on the earth. And apart from that, the atmosphere also contains a layer called as ozone. And this ozone is very, very important because it absorbs ultraviolet light. So ozone layer is the one which absorbs the ultraviolet light. Or what happens if ultraviolet light enters into the Earth's atmosphere? We'll get a lot of cancer, especially skin cancer. We'll get a lot of skin diseases. Our eyes will get damaged, and the body gets dehydrated. A lot of problems will get created. That is why UV light should not enter into the Earth's atmosphere, and should not enter into the Earth's atmosphere. The ozone layer is the one that actually protects it. And we all know about the ozone depletion and all that, right? So that is why ozone layer is very, very important here. So the Earth's atmosphere, what is it made up of? So we know that the Earth's atmosphere comprises of the stratosphere and the troposphere. So what is it made up of? It is made up of just gases. Only gases are present, wherein 78% of the gas is nitrogen, 21% of the gas is oxygen, and only 1% of other gases are present, such as hydrogen, helium, and some noble gases are present in the atmosphere. And this atmosphere actually protects the earth from the hostile environment of the outer space. So after the atmosphere, it is the outer space, right? So the outer space, the temperature, everything is completely different, but the earth's temperature is protected, or the earth is completely protected by this particular atmosphere layer that is there. And apart from atmosphere having a ozone layer which prevents the entry of UV radiations or ultraviolet radiations into the earth's atmosphere, atmosphere also protects the earth from the infrared radiation. This infrared radiation is also a type of radiation that is emitted by the sun. This infrared radiation should not enter into the Earth's atmosphere. So that is why the Earth's atmosphere absorbs the infrared radiation that is emitted by the sun, and it is re-emitted back from the Earth, and thus it controls the temperature of the Earth. So atmosphere also helps in controlling the temperature of the Earth by re-emitting or by preventing the absorption of the infrared radiation. So this is about the atmosphere. So we'll move on to the next component of the Earth, that is hydrosphere. So hydrosphere, hydro means water. So the Earth is surrounded by water. There is lot of water bodies present in the Earth, right? So the hydrosphere is nothing but it is the total amount of water that is there in a planet. And the hydrosphere includes water that is on the surface of the planet, that is underground, and in the air. So what all types of water are there? Water present in the air in the form of moisture, in the form of humidity, in the form of moisture and all that. Water present underground, that is in the water table, and water present on the surface of the planet. So all these constitutes the Earth's hydrosphere. So a planet's hydrosphere can be in the form of liquid, it can be in the form of vapor or in the ice. So liquid, usually in seas, oceans, ponds and all, you find the liquid what hydrosphere is found. And vapor, that is in the atmosphere, you find this in the form, or in the air you find it in the form of vapor. And in the polar ice caps, that is glaciers and all that, you find it in the form of ice. On Earth, liquid water exists on the surface in the form of oceans, wherein 97% of the water on land is occupied by the oceans, and lakes and rivers, only 2% is occupied by the lakes and rivers. So, how much percentage of water we have for drinking? We have only 2%. Now, now you can understand why environmental studies is important. 2% is there. Now imagine this 2% should be used by millions of billions of people on this planet, and also the various animals that are there. So therefore, preserving fresh water here is very, very important. Always keep in mind that the drinkable water that is available is only 2%, and again in this 2%, because of pollution and all that, only 1% is available as fresh water. That is in the form of rivers, lakes, streams, and as groundwater for human use. So groundwater is nothing but wells in the form of for human use. So only how much now is remaining? Only out of the whole hydrosphere of the planet Earth, only 1% of water is for human consumption. So that is why please save water. Do not unnecessarily waste water. So now we have understood why environmental studies is important, because we learnt about the component of hydrosphere, and because of that we came to know that only 1% is fresh water. Now we'll have an idea that yes, it is true, we need to preserve water, we need to conserve water. So this is about the hydrosphere of the Earth. Next, talking about lithosphere component of the Earth. So lithosphere, it is the outer mantle of the solid Earth. That is, the outer layer or the mantle of the Earth's crust is called as the lithosphere. And this lithosphere is the one that consists of a lot of minerals that occur in the Earth's crust and the soil, such as example, it consists of minerals, it consists of organic matter, it consists of minerals in the air and water, all that are nothing but the lithosphere. So this is about the lithosphere. So next, moving to one more component, the biosphere. So biosphere, there is one more term for that. It is also called as the ecosphere, and it is one of the narrow zones on the surface of the Earth where soil, water and air, that is soil means lithosphere, water hydrosphere and air atmosphere, combines in order to sustain life. In order for the life to survive properly, all these combine to form the biosphere. What all? The air, that is the atmosphere, the water, that is the hydrosphere, and the earth, that is the lithosphere. or the soil, that is the lithosphere. So all these combine to form the biosphere, and we live in a biosphere wherein we are interacting with all of these components that are there. So the biosphere includes all the living organisms on the earth together or along with the dead organic matter that is produced by them, and the interaction between the each of these organisms. So in a biosphere, we find living organisms. We also find the dead and decomposing organisms in the soil, and there is an interaction between the living organisms and the dead and decaying organisms. Say for example, plants. Plants, when they are living, they take up mineral nutrients from the soil. So from where does the mineral nutrient gets added to the soil? It is when these plants or animals die, then they decay in the soil, and that gets converted into minerals, and that minerals will be used by the plants for its proper growth. So that is how each of these components in the biosphere, they are interrelated or interconnected to one another for their survival. So biosphere is not present all over the world. It is only present in different areas or ecosystems of the world. In some of the regions it is not present, such as it is not present in the north and the south poles, because the north and south poles are always snow laden. They are filled with snow. So that is why they do not sustain life much there, and therefore biosphere is absent there. And biosphere is also not found in the highest mountains. Why in the highest mountain? Because as and when we go to higher elevations, the amount of oxygen that we get there is completely reduced, and the temperature is also highly decreased there. So that is why in higher mountain ranges also we don't find the biosphere, and also we do not find biosphere in the deepest oceans, because in the deepest oceans also the sunlight doesn't penetrate in properly. If the sunlight doesn't penetrate in properly, then there is no chance for the plants to grow. If the plants do not grow, then obviously other animals will not be supported there. Only some sedimentary animals will be present, but apart from that, majority of the animals and plants are not found there. Therefore, in the deepest ocean also we do not find the biosphere, because those environments are so hostile, or it is so extreme that they do not support any forms of life. So this is about the biosphere. So this was about this particular session wherein we studied about the definition for environment and who coined the term environment, and we also studied about the multidisciplinary nature of environmental studies, and also we learned about the different components of the environment. And in the next coming session, we shall continue with the same unit, that is Introduction to Environmental Studies, wherein we shall study about the scope of environmental studies. So environmental studies, it has a lot of scope in different fields, be it your career or any other fields, there is a lot of scope. So what is the scope of environmental studies, and what is the importance of environmental studies? Why should we study about environment? All that we shall learn in the coming session. So we shall meet again in the coming session. Thank you.